You choose by what you do, Nori tells the stranger in a moment of crisis, in this Season 1 finale of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Beware, spoilers ahead. The stranger makes his way through vegetation, stone, and trees in the greenwood. In his mind, he hears Nori's long-ago assurance, "You're not a peril. You're good." A branch breaks, and he turns to see a cloaked figure he recognizes. "Nori?" he queries, hopeful. However, whenever she blinks, her irises become icy blue. As the other two enigmatic figures emerge from the trees, she folds in on herself and then unfolds as the dweller. However, they are not here to harm him. The ascetic murmurs, "We come to serve you, Lord Sauron." Elrond and Celebrimbor are concerned within Eregion. Gil-galad is approaching, and there is still no means to save the elves. Galadriel gallops into the ivy-covered courtyard at that moment. Elrond and Galadriel are surprised to see each other, particularly Elrond, who believed his friend was safe in Valinor, hidden behind a cloud wall. But there will be time for reunion and reconciliation in the future. For now, Halbrand's condition is dire. 6 days of non-stop riding have left him unable to stand without assistance. It appears that elvish medication works quickly, as Halbrand is soon back on his feet and searching for Galadriel in the workshop. The Celebrimbor? Halbrand is astonished when he discovers his current location. Halbrand appears to be aware of the fact that flattery is the key to success with Celebrimbor. He seizes the mithril and suggests combining it with other ores in order to increase its potency. Pharazôn is at the king's own sickbed in Numenor. Soon, black flags will fill our harbor, Pharazôn informs the assembled apprentices tasked with designing the king's tomb. As Eregion takes her turn sketching the monarch alone, he grabs her and begs her to return to the old ways in order to save the island. He opens a door and warns, "I looked for too long, and now I cannot separate what is from what was from what will be." Eregion follows his instructions through the door, where she draws back the velvet drape of the palantir. Gil-galad returns to Eregion, where he encounters Elrond, Celebrimbor, and Galadriel, who has exchanged her armor for a bath and the city's velvet and gold. Celebrimbor suggests that they create a mithril crown, which Gil-galad, the resident crown wearer, dislikes. However, Celebrimbor is adamant. "We are on the cusp of crafting a new kind of power. A power not of the flesh, but over flesh." Galadriel has previously heard these words in the Southlands, which would soon be consumed by fire. Adar uttered them then, and now Celebrimbor is, influenced by Halbrand. Gil-galad reluctantly grants Celebrimbor a few more months, and the forge is instantly bustling with forgers, including Halbrand, forging and firing. Galadriel, newly suspicious, observes from the shadows and queries an elf secretly for any records of the royal bloodlines of the Southlands. Back in the greenwood, the women explain to the stranger that his enigmatic constellation is visible only in Rhûn, their home. The ascetic and the nomad assure him, "Every being that walks or crawls shall be your slaves, for you are Lord Sauron." As they speak, however, the elements awaken for the stranger, with embers circling and trees violently trembling. It is excessive, the dweller strikes him unconscious, and the ascetic and nomad bind him to a tree by his wrists. A patch of vegetation in the background is moving. It is Sadok, disguised and snooping alongside Nori, Poppy, and Marigold. Marigold distracts the women while Nori and Sadok untie the stranger who is incapacitated. Then, however, Marigold discovers the stranger on the forest floor, tied to the tree and sprawled in the tall grass. The deception is revealed when the restrained stranger opens his ice-blue eyes and his cloak falls away, revealing the dweller. The nomad buries a dagger in Sadok's torso, causing his shirt to bloom with blood. The wind suddenly picks up, and thunder rumbles. The stranger, the actual stranger, rises and causes the earth to shake. The dweller twists him in the air with her staff before tossing him to the ground. She then places both of her soot-covered hands in the fire and blasts raging flames into the trees protecting the fleeing Harfoots. Nori cannot abandon her friend, despite his pleas to do so out of concern that he will hurt her again. He is now speaking in complete sentences, "They showed me what I am." But Nori is not convinced. "You choose by what you do. You're here to help. I know it. and assistance is urgently required, as the dweller prepares to set Marigold, Poppy, and Sadok on fire as Nori howls in agony. Suddenly, however, the flames in the trees and in her palms are extinguished. The stranger stands, holding a staff. He is here to assist. We are aware. Now the women realize, he is not Sauron. He is Istar. In his own estimation, he is much more straightforward. I'm good. The forest is illuminated by a blinding white light. The women of Rune are internally illuminated, transforming into wailing skeletons before disintegrating into clouds of fluttering moths. However, Sadok cannot rejoice, as his wound is mortal. Soon, he will be reunited with his wife who remained behind. As the rising sun turns the scorched forest gold, he closes his eyes for the last time against this warmer, more genuine light, encircled by his loyal friends who will always wait for him. The Numenorian vessel is returning to port. Elendil is below deck, where Miriel offers him time off while he recovers from the apparent loss of his son. The results of Elendil's trust in Galadriel have been unanticipated and dreadful, but he will ensure that their sacrifices were worthwhile. Miriel enjoys a moment of repose against his shoulder. Elendil sees what Miriel cannot, the black flags draping the harbor in Numenor, where they have now arrived. The king is deceased. Back in Eregion, Galadriel has received her answer. On the margins of a river, she holds an open scroll in her hand. Halbrand bounds in as if summoned with the news that the mithril is too potent for a single object, so they will create two. However, she will not visit to observe the progress. There is no king of the Southlands, she informs him categorically. The last man to bear your crest died over 1,000 years ago. He had no heir? The joke is on him, but he does not appear to care. I told you I found it on a dead man, Halbrand shrugs. Tell me your name, she whispers, knowing full well that she already knows it. I have had many names, he chuckles. She attempts to stab him, but he immediately stops her. Her ears ring, causing her to collapse. She hears Finrod's voice when she lands in Valinor, where she is at home. She spits, "Get out of my mind," but the prospect of seeing her sibling again is so enticing that she turns to him beaming. My task was to ensure peace, he insists. But I learned that was Sauron's task as well. This Finrod is not hers, he belongs to Sauron. Galadriel departs from the person she adores most with tears streaming down her face. Finrod screams, "Galadriel, look at me," and then she is back on the raft with Halbrand in the midst of the sundering seas. He asserts that he only ever told her the truth. He told her he had committed evil, and she told him that his past need not dictate his future. In the reflection of the water, he shows her a vision of their future, Galadriel standing next to the imposing, iron-armored Sauron. I would make you a queen. You bind me to the light, he insists. And I bind you to power. Together, we can save Middle-earth. Galadriel, however, is aware of the distinction between saving and ruling, and instead presses the blade to his throat. Behind them, over the vast ocean, a brilliant blue sky breaks through the clouds on one side, while a violent storm develops on the other. In his rage, Halbrand's eyes are encircled with a fiery red, and his pupils are slits, resembling Sauron's eyes. They shriek, lightning strikes, and Galadriel is thrown back into the sea. This time, however, it is her genuine friend Elrond who pulls her from the river, not Halbrand. Halbrand is gone. Galadriel dashes to the workshop, where she finds Celebrimbor by himself. She does not anticipate Halbrand's return. She insists that they create 3 objects for equilibrium, and that only elves receive them. Celebrimbor, however, requires extremely purified gold and silver to alloy with mithril, Valinorian ores. True creation requires sacrifice, he tells her as she holds her brother's treasured sword. Hopefully, she will be able to ultimately put it down in the interest of peace. Nori asks the stranger in the grove if he has any additional recollections, but he only has glimpses and must travel to Rune to learn more. She inquires if Istar is his kind. In your tongue, that's wise one, or wizard, he replies. In the meantime, the Harfoots are preparing to travel on foot. Nori joins her family, but they immediately place a bag at her feet, sending her on an expedition with the stranger. "You're part of something bigger now," says Largo. She departs from her proud mother and beloved father, her own North Star, with tears in her eyes. Poppy bursts through the crowd to firmly embrace her friend. Nori is then completely off the trail, but never walking alone. As they determine their course, the stranger imparts some advice to Eleanor Brandyfoot: "When in doubt, Eleanor Brandyfoot, always follow your nose." Even though he does not yet have a name, this is the wise counsel of the future Gandalf the Grey. Galadriel throws her dagger into the embers of Celebrimbor to be melted. The molten gold and silver are combined with the mithril in a cauldron. Elrond discovers the forgotten scroll in the grasses as Celebrimbor twists and shapes the new alloy into rings. He hurries back to the workshop, where the beauty of the first 3 gleaming power rings causes him to lose his voice. The circles are reflected in an eye, which also reflects the Mount Doom fires. Halbrand, clad in a black cloak, traverses the stone ruins of smoke-filled Mordor as the first season draws to a close. In the end, you choose by what you do. If he has his way, he will rule all of Middle-earth. He will attempt to govern them all and bind them in the darkness. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to see more videos like this. Click like and turn on notifications to help out the channel.